I want to welcome Jeena Cho and thank her so much for coming. She's got a thriving practice in bankruptcy law and her own blog, and she's done some other writing, and we're thrilled to have her here. She's got some really great ideas. I hope you guys will feel like you can ask her any questions that you have, and I'm just going to let her finish her own introduction, and then maybe we can all go around and introduce ourselves too.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much. So my name is Jeena Cho, and I'm a bankruptcy attorney. I've been doing that for about 6 years. I think when I graduated from law school, if you had told me that I would have my own practice, practicing with my husband, and writing a book titled The Anxious Lawyer, would have said you are all crazy, right? But here I am, and I think one of the things I wish I had learned in law school was that your life journey is just going to unfold for you, and it may unfold in a very different way than what you think might happen when you're in law school. So I'll kind of talk a little bit more about that. But yeah, I'm really, really thrilled to be here. And I really encourage you guys to ask any questions or concerns, or just like what's keeping you up at night, or whatever it is that's on your mind. I really kind of encourage you to, so that we can kind of have a discussion about it. I think one of the other things I wished I had done more of in law school is just kind of actually talking about, sort of the anxieties. I'm writing a book on anxiety, right? So it's something I think a lot about. But, like what causes you stress and what causes you anxiety? A lot of times I think we have this tendency to feel like I'm the only one that feels anxious about what my life is going to look like in 2 years, or I'm the only one that's stressed out about this. Once you start to kind of voice what you're feeling, you'll find that a lot of people actually share your concerns and your feelings. So yeah, so maybe if we can kind of just go around the room, you can tell me your name and what year you're in, and why you're here. Like, what brought you to this presentation, and if you have any questions, and I'll just make some notes, and then we can just kind of move back around. Does anyone want to volunteer and start? Be brave. Awesome. Yeah, thanks.
My name is Kim Whitlow, and I'm a 1L, and I'm here because I actually joined the law school toolbox before school started. So I was subscribed to the newsletter, and I saw your article about law school hustling, and I really liked the advice that you gave. So I'm interested to learn more.
Okay, great. Welcome. Thank you.
I'm Tracy, also first year, and just here to get some information and figure some things out.
Okay, great.
I'm Gwen. I'm a first year, and I saw the thing in the newsletter, and I was very interested in hearing what you had to say.
Also in Girls Guide to Law School? Is that what you thought?
GG.
Oh, okay, great, wonderful. Hi.
My name is Yali. The primary reason I'm here is that my niece is going to go to law school next year, so I'm trying to have a feel of since first year looks like, because she was born here in America, so I have no idea about the local girl, what the local girls will feel about law school. For me, it's like just suck it up, just read and take exams. It's a different experience from outside.
Sorry, different experience.
It's a totally different experience from my point of view.
From where you went to school, or
Yeah.
in what way? Great, thank you, welcome.
Hi, my name is Lisa Lopez. I'm also 1L. I saw the flyer, and I kind of just thought it would be interesting to see, what am I missing, or can I do something to prevent feeling like I didn't come out of law school with all the preparations to actually go out and be a productive person.
I'm Danielle. I'm a 1L as well, and just like everyone else is saying, I just want to see if there's anything else that in law school I feel like I should be doing, and that would be helpful for me for my career.
I'm Fernanda. I'm a 3L. Looks like it's a little late for me, but there are things that I wish I had done, so I wanted to see what other people wish they had done as well. We didn't have the time to.
Yeah, same here. I'm Jane. I'm a 3L 9 student. So I saw the note on the law school news, and I'm interested. I'm looking, trying to see what I'm missing and prepare for the career.
Great, thank you.
Hi, I'm Christy. I'm a 3L. I saw the posting also in Law School News, and I went to your blog, and I kind of felt like I connected with the worried about getting out of law school and not getting a career that I I like bankruptcy is something that I was kind of interested in but never took, so I wanted to see your perspective on that.
My name is Selena. I'm a 1L. Like everybody else here, I saw your link in the law school news, and I also read some of your blog, and I thought it was very relatable.
Great, thank you.
I'm Julie, I'm a 1L, and when I saw your information, I like to find strong women role models, and you seemed like you might provide that, and you were willing to come and give us proactive advice, so I couldn't turn that down.
No, thank you, I appreciate that.
I'm Victoria. I'm a recent graduate, and I am currently working with Elisa at Law Career Services.
Oh, welcome.
I'm On. I'm a student in U.S. Legal Studies, and I just saw the news in the second floor, and I want to attend and see how it can give me any idea if I want to work here to further my future career. Because I'm in Thailand, and I don't know whether I can work here or not, but I need to find some difficulty that I may have will be in the future after graduate. So I just want to know the idea from you, something like that.
Yeah. Thank you. Great. Yeah, thank you. So I graduated from law school 11 years ago. It's really kind of hard to believe. But I just remember going through law school and feeling like I had a whole long checklist of stuff that I am supposed to do. And I think we all have this. I'm supposed to make law journal. I'm supposed to do internships and externships. And you just get so busy kind of trying to keep up with everybody else that you sort of kind of lose yourself in the process in many ways. And I think I graduated from law school, and it was like, like people would ask me like, what do you do for fun? And I would just look at them like, what do you mean fun? Like that's not something I can identify with. And actually that was just normal, because everybody else was in the same boat. If I asked my friends that were in law school, what do you do for fun? They'd kind of look at me strangely too. And I think in hindsight, I wish that when I was in law school, I had more fun. So I mean, that's for all of you guys that's a 1L or still in law school. I would really kind of encourage you to figure out like what do you really enjoy in life, and like what gives you pleasure, and what gets you really excited, and and I think that that's really so important for us to actually maintain our sanity, right? And especially I think most of us are women, so kind of thinking about that work-life balance and like how do you maintain that work-life balance? And I think one of the important thing is to just kind of have fun, and it might be something really simple like just going for a little stroll between your classes, or going for a yoga class, or just whatever it is, and not make it like another thing that you have to put on your to-do list, right? But just to kind of, so I really I'm kind of curious, like, what do you guys like to do for fun? Is that something, am I kind of are you guys sort of in the same boat where I say, what do you do for fun? And you're kind of thinking, what do you mean fun? And what does that look like for you?
I hike.
Hike,
So I think a lot of it's like exercise.
Mm-hmm.
Or I try to incorporate as much of that as possible in my, like every week, just to kind of release stress.
Yeah.
And then I also read. I know it sounds counterintuitive because we have a lot of different books we have to read also, but like that's like my hobby. So I feel like that gives me like I feel like there's a life outside of law school when I do those things, and I think that's like the goal for me, at least.
Yeah, that's great. Anyone else?
Yeah. During my first year in law school, I didn't really do anything fun. I pushed out everything, and my grades did not come out as good as I wanted. And like towards the end of my third year, I started hiking a lot. I started going fishing a lot, and just doing I started meditating, and then my grades were substantially better. I don't know if there's a correlation,
Yeah.
but maybe I just let loose a little bit more and relax, and then I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, and meditation, or just kind of having any sort of contemplative practice, I think is so great for kind of maintaining your mental health. And really just kind of being able to watch your mood and your emotions and not having those knee-jerk reactions all the time, right? Or constantly feeling like you should be doing something else, but really just kind of sinking into the moment and, you know, and feeling, just breathing into it a little bit. Yeah, so, I think that's a huge, I just remember, like, I'd get up every morning and, like, just, I'd sit there and be like, oh my gosh, I have so much that I have to do. I'd suck down my cup of coffee, then I'd hop in the shower, and, and it was like, I jokingly tell people the reason why I'm writing this book called The Anxious Lawyer is because I got tired of showering with all of my clients every morning, I would be, like, shampooing my hair and be like, oh my God, I have to work on this motion today, and I have to call this, jerk back, and, I know he's going to say something to piss me off, and it was like, I was just constantly living in some other place instead of now. So yeah, it's just like, what does that feel like to just really be here in the moment? So for the 1Ls, and I was kind of thinking, if I had to go back and do it all over again, what would I do as a 1L? And I think the first thing is to kind of figure out, like, what do you really enjoy, and kind of really feeling what work-life balance feels like for you. Because if you can't do that as a 1L, it'll be difficult to do it when you're a practicing attorney, because you're just going to have more and more responsibilities and more things to do. And part of that is kind of just seeing, like, what are you really curious about, right? Like, we live in the Bay Area. There's so much opportunities here, with all the tech companies, and there's just a lot of exciting things happening. So it's like, what's your place in the world? And, and I think when I was in law school, I really thought about my life after law school as in terms of, do I go into litigation or do I go into transactional law? Like, that was my big decision. And now I look around and there are just so many amazing opportunities for, lawyers, especially if you're interested in tech. There's a lot of interesting happening around share economy. And like, what are you really interested in? Do you enjoy writing? And if you are, then, this might be a great time to start blogging. And you don't have to blog about the law, right? You can blog about just whatever is interesting to you. If you're interested in fashion law, maybe you can write a blog, or actually reach out to people that have blogs that you admire, and really kind of building your brand, even as a 1L. Because now with LinkedIn and people can just Google your name, we can find out a lot of information about you. So when someone Googles your name, what do you want to come up on page 1? And how does that reflect who you are as a first-year associate or after you graduate from law school? Because if you try to do that once you graduate, you're kind of catching up, right? But if you start doing things now to kind of build your brand and figuring out, like, what feels really right for me? Because you're not a cookie-cutter lawyer, right? Like, you're going to be your own unique lawyer, and how does that differ? When I first started practicing, I was a litigator. I was a district attorney, and that's just what I wanted to do, just so badly. When I was little, I watched Law and Order, and my dream was to wear the pumps and the suit and march into court and do my thing. And I had a very this idea of what that looks like what does it mean to be a litigator? And I thought, you have to be tough, and you have to be aggressive, and you have to be, pounding your fists on the table, because that was sort of the role model that I saw. But I quickly realized I can't do that, right? Because I'm 5'5", I'm Asian, I'm female, right? And if I try to act like the 6'2" white male counterpart, that's just going to look ridiculous on me. It's just like, what does it mean to be a woman litigator? And it's still a primarily male-dominated role. And after a while, I just kind of realized, like, this really isn't for me. But it took me a long time to figure that out. And I think part of it was because I wasn't being honest with myself, right? I thought, well, this is what I am supposed to do. Like, how many of us walk around with a very long list of, I am supposed to be doing X, Y, and Z, instead of thinking about, like what do I really love to do? And if you just allow yourself to even ask that question, like, what do I really love? Does that question even kind of sound scary to some of you? Like, I asked that question, like, what do you really love? And you're just like, oh no, like, I can't consider that. And and I think I did for a long time, where I was just like, I had to kind of stick to this list. And if I didn't do everything, if I couldn't check off all the things on my list, I was a failure. And kind of tuning into that internal dialogue that says, that inner critic, right? We all have our inner critic that says, I'm supposed to do blah, 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 blah. And if I don't, then, I'm a failure.
Do you have any suggestions for how people can figure out what it is that they love, or what they, how to, everybody knows what we're supposed to do, but how do we figure out what it is that we should do for ourselves? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the first thing is to just be really curious, right? Like, why do you prefer red over blue or blue over pink? And that's going to kind of give you clues. It's really about self-exploration. Like, why do you like one thing and not the other? And when something feels really bad, or something makes you really anxious, or you can kind of feel your stress level rising, kind of curiously leaning into that and saying, okay, like, why is it that when I read this job description, like something inside your gut just says, I don't know, I don't think that's really for me. Or you read another job description and you're like, yeah, like that's who I am. That makes me really excited. And so just kind of really curiously figuring out, like self-exploration. And I think many of us, we don't really know ourselves very well in many ways. And so, yeah.
I think 3Ls might experience that curiosity, 1Ls, by, it's maybe too late for the 3Ls actually, but by taking classes that sound like they might be remotely interesting, electives and seminars and things, and it's just a couple units. It's not gonna, you've got electives for that reason, to try things out. And I've talked to a lot of students who were close to graduation who figured out what they wanted to do because they just took this one class and fell in love with it.
Yeah.
So, that's certainly a thought of, like, sort of a concrete way that someone could figure out what they're, explore that curiosity. And what they're talking
Definitely,
about.
yeah. And reaching out to people that you find to be curious, right? You read a blog post and you really like the author, drop them an email and say, hey, I read your blog post, and when you said X, Y, and Z, that really caught my attention. Do you mind if I meet you for coffee? And I think, and not just people that are in law, but maybe, even people that are outside of law. Like, using Twitter is a great way to kind of network with people, using LinkedIn. And I remember, because I'm naturally a very introverted person, so going out and networking with people, making contact, that is not something that came easy for me at all. So because there's a couple of things. If that's you, then, give yourself a little bit of a break, and don't, I was just so harsh on myself for, like, oh, you should be networking and you should be doing informational interviews, and just kind of like beating myself up for not doing it. And that's like the worst way to kind of get yourself out the door and doing the things that you should be doing. So just kind of treating yourself with a little bit of kindness. But second thing is, I remember, like, I'll do all this research, right, and I'll find the law firm that I think I want to work at, and I'll email the senior managing partner. And if he didn't respond back to me, I would think, oh, I'm being rejected, right? When in fact, he may just be really busy, or maybe your email ended up in his spam filter, or maybe he doesn't have the time to meet with you, but if you email another partner at that firm, that person might be willing to meet with you. So, like, even like redefining what it means to be rejected, right? It's not really a rejection, it's just, the more contact you make. So after a while, I started thinking about it sort of as a numbers game. I graduated from law school in Buffalo, and I didn't pass the bar on my first try in New York, so I moved down to Tampa, Florida, I didn't know anyone, and I just needed a change of pace, so it was like a big jump for me, and I thought, well, sitting at home looking at Craigslist or the job listing in the back of the newspaper was clearly not going to get me a job. So I just started reaching out, and and I actually pulled. There was a way to search the Florida bar directory by where they went to school. So I searched all the schools in New York, and I emailed attorneys and firms that I thought I'd want to work at, and I said, I went to school in Buffalo. I'm new to town. I don't know any of the lawyers in the legal community. Would it be okay if I stopped by your office to just, briefly chat with you and have coffee? And, and like I said before, I would just send out one email, and then I'd wait a week, and then I'd do another one. I was like, wait a second, I'm not doing this right. So I started sending out like a lot of emails, right? So if I sent out 100 emails and 10 people responded, well, that's great, right? I have 10 more than I would have had if I didn't do that at all. And I found that people are actually really, really willing to meet with you and talk with you. Especially when you're still in law school, right? When you're still in law school, you have this advantage that you will no longer have once you graduate, which is that you are still in law school. Like, I love it when people in law school reach out to me, because I'm like, oh, you're a 1L and you want to meet with me. Like, I just love that. There's this sort of, like that mentorship and kind of wanting to help someone out that's still in law school. And also there's that sort of, well, you're still in law school and you're taking the initiative to reach out and meet with me. Versus if you just pass the bar and you're emailing me. Because even if you don't say, I'm looking for a job, right, there's that kind of pressure. And I kind of think, well, I don't have a job for this person. I don't know anyone that's hiring this person. And so then, like I don't want to say no to anyone. So kind of keep that in mind. And this is a great time to start building your network. And in a legal community like San Francisco, there's probably 2 degrees of separation at best. Right? So even if that particular person doesn't have a job for you, the thing you should always do at the end of an informational interview is, of course, thank them. Right? Like thank them there in person, drop them a letter or a card thanking them again, and also ask them, who else should I meet with, right? And ask them to say, like, if you can introduce me to 2 or 3 of your colleagues that I should meet with, I would really appreciate that. And then they ask them to either email that person and copy you, or ask them for a list, and then you should email those folks and say, hey, I just had coffee with Jason last week. He spoke really highly of you, and he said I should meet you. And when Jason tells me I should listen, I start listening. So is it okay if I come over to your office and meet with you for half an hour? And just kind of really start to build your network and get in touch with them, connect with them on LinkedIn, and you just want to stay on people's radars. Because a lot of, sometimes I'll come across jobs where, I'll have lunch with a colleague and he'll say, oh yeah, I'm kind of thinking about hiring an associate. And I'll say, oh, I have someone in mind. I had coffee with her, 6 months ago. Let me pull up her information and find out for you.
So besides reaching out to attorneys, are there other sort of networking ideas or suggestions that you have for law students?
Yeah, I think because we sort of live in the hub of everything technology, if there's like a so I did bankruptcy and I found this website called Ready for Zero, which is a debt management program, and I really liked what they were doing. So I looked up all the people that were on the board. I dropped them an email and I said, I'm a bankruptcy attorney. I really like your program. And then I just had coffee with them, and then I found out that there were certain legal needs that they had that I could help with. So there's just little opportunities like that. So kind of looking around and just really kind of figure out what's interesting to you. I had coffee with this woman, and she noticed that her yoga studio didn't have an interface to be able to book yoga appointments. So she actually went out and developed this whole program where yoga studios can use that program so that people can seamlessly pay and sign up for a yoga class. Just, like kind of looking around for little opportunities. And actually backing up a little bit, I think what I noticed, so as a solo practitioner, is that there is like this whole group of sort of older attorneys that are kind of thinking about an exit strategy. So maybe they're in their mid-50s, and they're kind of looking down the road, they're solo, maybe they have, a couple of people working for them. And I think there's a lot of opportunities for someone that's just coming out of law school to just meet with them and kind of really listen to what it is that they need. Because what they need may not necessarily be the skill that you want to offer them, meaning, for me, like having somebody come in and do research and writing is very limited use because I've been doing bankruptcy law for 6 years, and so, but there are things that I can really use help with, like managing the client flow better, or how do I get my clients from A to Z, right? Like bankruptcy is very form driven, so and there may be opportunities that you can come into a solo practitioner and say, okay, you're doing things in this way. You have, storages full of old client files, and you want to become digital. Maybe I can help you with that, and see if can I come and help you for 10 hours a week, and like actually literally carve out a job for yourself, right? There's lots of those type of opportunities, and I meet with solo attorneys all the time, and they tell me like, I know I need to kind of bring my practice up to this century. Right? And it's like they don't even know how to begin to do that because they're so overwhelmed with the work that they're doing. And you guys, you grew up with digital technology, right? This is like all stuff that you can figure out, that you probably use on a day-to-day basis. Even just like switching your email server from your GoDaddy account over to like Google Apps, like those things can make such a huge difference in a solo practitioner's life. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can go and do that. So like when you meet with people, just really kind of listen, ask questions, be curious. Like what is it that I can help you with? If they don't have a blog and everyone's telling them, you should be writing a blog. You're a family lawyer and you should be writing a blog. And you can offer and say, hey, can I interview you maybe twice a week, and I can write up a few blog posts for you. And that way you're kind of learning the subject area, and you're also honing your writing skills, and you're also helping that person out. And then even if that doesn't end up turning into a job, at least you can put that on your resume, right? I worked with lawyer so-and-so, and I helped her get, write blogs and generate content and, and do things like that. Have questions? I feel like I've been doing a lot of talking. Is there like something burning inside of you that you want to learn more about? Yeah.
Do you have any suggestions for someone like me that who doesn't know? I don't know what I want to do, and for me, I feel like the sky is the limit right now, and I'm interested in everything, and so I don't know. Do you have any suggestions on where to start, like in terms of figuring out what might work for me?
Are there any practice areas that you definitely don't want to do that you can sort of eliminate?
A few.
Yeah.
But not many.
Have you started reaching out to attorneys in the community, people that have the jobs that you might want, and just meet for coffee or?
Yeah. I don't even know where to start. I don't know, it just feels overwhelming to me.
What does that feeling of feeling overwhelming feel like for you? Like, what is that sensation like?
It's not pleasant.
But like when you say like I feel overwhelmed, right? And so like you don't even know where to start. Like what is that sensation? Like when you say like is it like you feel like you can't breathe, or you just feel like there's so much that you can do that you kind of have trouble even narrowing it down?
It limits me. It's like I just I don't know. Anyways, so I guess my question is, do you have suggestions on how like I can learn about the different areas of law. Like is it reading a book, like these are all the areas of law and you know, what is it? How do you learn what's out there? Because there's just so much that's out there, you know.
Right. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, there's this huge universe, and like, how do you kind of start to break it down a little bit? I mean, honestly, I would, you know, you might want to just make like a plan and say, I am going to go out and try to meet with one person that interests me every week for the next 6 months, and just reevaluate, or, you know, even for the next 3 months. Right? So if you did that, you'd meet with 12 people and kind of let it guide you and say, okay, like I met with this person and I liked X, Y, and Z, and then I met with, but these were the things that I don't think I would enjoy. It's a process, right? And I know when you're kind of feeling overwhelmed, like you want a solution and you want an answer, but just kind of giving yourself the permission to say, you know, I'm gonna just kind of sit with this for a while and kind of, you know, pick away at it a little bit, and just sit with that feeling of feeling overwhelmed, and just say, okay, like what is like a little 3-month strategy that I can make for myself to kind of explore this. I mean, figuring out what you want to be when you grow up, it's a really, really hard question to answer, and you know, and it's not and it's going to take a while to figure it out.
I would add to that too, that there's more resources beyond just talking to other practicing attorneys. All the professors here love students, that's why they're teaching, and especially some of the adjuncts that you'll start meeting in your 2nd year and 3rd year, who teach the more specialized courses, are often practicing attorneys who also come and teach 1 night class a week over here. And those are folks all who love what they're doing, love students, and are passionate about some area of law, and they'd be happy to talk you through what are the options within that field, and you could sort of try them on and think, could I see myself doing that, or you know. So certainly, you know, within the law school, there's lots of people who you could talk to that would make a once a week meeting a little more realistic than trying to meet with somebody outside the law school once a week. Maybe that's once a month, and then the other 3 weeks are, you know, people within the law school. And then, you know, looking online, I think, you know, Jeena's got her blog, and it's focused on the things that she's good at, and there's a trillion other blogs in all kinds of different areas of law. So people, you know, write about what it's like to be that kind of attorney, or, you know, interesting area, you know, new decisions or whatever, and see what turns you on, what, you know, what things speak to you, which ones are boring to you, and you just find yourself looking more and more at certain kinds, then you might think, well, maybe this is an area I should explore more. And then, you know, taking classes is another way, joining SORs. Right now, MCLEs are free, for almost every MCLE is free to students. And so going to those and just, you know, they're on every kind of topic in the world, so you can go and just hear about a topic for an hour and see if you thought there was anything interesting there. And then there's the speakers and the other people in the room who practice that kind of law, and that's why they're at that MCLE to talk to and reach out to and collect cards from if you do like it. So there's lots and lots of ways beyond, you know, in addition to what Jeena was just suggesting, that you guys can sort of explore various interests and try, like she said, start eliminating things and then focus in. And you're also not locked in the second you graduate to one area of law for the rest of your career. I mean, mine has spanned several different kinds of law in the 10 years that I practiced, and now I'm here in student services. And Jeena switched from one type of law to another, so there's no saying that once you've made a decision, you're locked in. There's still plenty of room in your career to move around.
Yeah, all great tips, and I think because I've been out of law school for so long, I forget that your law school is such an amazing resource. You know, the professors that you meet and the career services are really there to help you, so really take advantage of those. And, you know, I think kind of carving out every week, like time you're going to dedicate to sort of developing your career, even when you're in law school, is really important. So say, you know, for an hour, 2-3 times a week, or, you know, whatever you can manage, and actually like make that be a part of what you do on a weekly basis.
Yeah. Sorry, if I could just share what I did when I was having the same thoughts, is instead of asking the person how is your practice, what do you do in your practice, I asked them to define exactly what they did on a day-to-day basis, like what is the thing that you do most? And some attorneys said, oh, I fill out a lot of forms and I do a lot of billing, and like from 9 to 5, I sit here filling forms on a computer. And that's just not what I want to do with my life for the rest of my life. You know, so I gathered the important things that I wanted to do. Like this guy meets with clients all day long and actually gets to talk to them and make a difference in people's lives, and you know, he does all these different things instead of just sitting in his chair typing. So that's what I want to do. You know, so that helped me a lot.
And adding on to that, I remember someone mentioned that in law career services they actually had a book like you're talking about that like laid out different types of like lawyers and areas of law and like what they did and what the job entailed. So maybe like go to law career services and something like that. And then I think you could start doing this too, like someone else like going to doing different stories and like you did like cross and close to seeing if like litigation is what you want to do, if it's not, like if that kind of answer for you, like maybe I don't want to do this at all. Like just trying different things too and exploring.
I would join a bar association, and usually they're free for students right now, and they usually have mentorship programs, and those are a good start to like ask, oh, who should I talk to about this? What do you know about this area? It's just a good thing that I've used a lot.
May I ask, what are some classes that you think you can remember taking in law school that you found actually prepared you for your feet on the ground as an attorney? Were there some that you remember that you thought, oh yeah, evidence, that really kind of crossed over into everything, or something else to that nature? You can?
Gosh.
I can actually answer that for me, and then I'll give Jeena a chance to something to say. For me, it was remedies. I felt like taking remedies, which I didn't take until near the end of law school, kind of put in perspective all of the other classes that I had been taking because I wanted to do civil law, not criminal, and that helped me understand what it was all for. You know, civil procedure is nice, but it's, you know, it's procedural steps, but what are you there to achieve? And remedies said, oh, because, you know, if this is what, if you want them to do something, then you go for an injunction. If you want them to pay something, you know, like if you want them to, whatever your goal is. And it sort of helped me understand the entire, what I had been studying up till that point, by having an idea of why the parties were in the courtroom in the first place. That's
Yeah,
my 2
no,
cents.
you're right. That was useful. I think professional responsibility was really an important class for me because it kind of guides you, right, on not only things that you shouldn't do, but you know, what does it mean to be an ethical lawyer, and what should I do in a particular situation where there's, you know, maybe some gray area or, yeah. But gosh, that was such a long time ago.
Yeah. I know that you said you switched to bankruptcy. What was the process like for that? Like, how did you figure out that that was what you wanted to do? Like, when was the aha moment, and like, what did you, like, I'm assuming you probably talked to a lot of attorneys first, but how did you realize that this was for you?
Yeah, so I did litigation for about 4 years, and I kind of decided that really wasn't for me, and I wanted to do a practice area where I felt like I was helping people that are like me, right? People that are just everyday, average folks. And I didn't want to do something like divorce, which can be very litigious, and you know, and I didn't want to have like a lot of conflict. I wanted to just be able to take a situation where someone was experiencing some type of distress, and then get them to a point where I'm helping them relieve that distress. So I moved out here to California from Tampa. And I started volunteering at ALRP, AIDS Legal Referral Panel. And it's a great organization, and I think they actually have programs for law students. You might want to check into that. But what's great about them is that they have these senior practitioners come in, and they'll teach you how to do certain things, how to prepare a basic will, or how to do bankruptcy, or how to do basic divorce. So I did a couple of those, and I took a bankruptcy class, and part of the deal is that you're supposed to take, I think, 2 or 3 pro bono cases that year as part of the program. So they do the training for free, and then you're supposed to take a certain number of pro bono cases. So my first client, he had AIDS and he had manic depression. So when he was on his manic high, he would go out and spend a lot of money on credit cards. And then when he was on his low, he would fall deep, really deep into these depression. And he, as this little old man, and he came into my office and he was just so ashamed, and he spent the entire hour just crying. He was just saying how shameful he felt, and how badly he felt about putting himself into this situation. And I just remember feeling so excited because I was like, I have a solution for you and I can help you fix this problem. And 3 months later, he was debt-free. And I remember at the hearing, he hugged me and he cried, and I was just like, oh yeah, this is why I went to law school, to be able to help people in that way. And I knew that was a practice area for me. My husband was at a civil litigation firm doing insurance defense, and I was doing contract work. So initially we tried to bring the bankruptcy practice into his law firm, but there was just trying to bring a new practice area to a law firm where they don't have that practice area. It was just really logistically challenging. So we had a few clients that we had signed up at the law firm, and then at some point we just couldn't get the partners to agree on the numbers, and we were like, we need to just kind of take the leap and start our own practice. And I can tell you, really the hardest part was giving the notice, and walking in to a perfectly good job, paying you, a perfectly good salary, and saying, I'm giving my notice, I'm going to go off on my own. But, in hindsight, there's nothing better than being your own boss. It's just I get up every morning and I'm so grateful for what we do and the lifestyle that we choose to lead. Certainly not making as much as, if we had worked at big law, but we don't have the hours either. Really kind of, if you want to be able to have control over what your life looks like, and what you do Monday through Friday, or whether you choose to work weekends, it gives you a lot more flexibility. That's something that you're interested in. I think there's actually classes here to teach you how to go open your solo practice. So even if you kind of think, I don't think that's for me, I think taking one of those, so going back to what I wish I learned in law school, I wish I had taken one of those sort of basic business 101 type of classes in law school, because even just things like bookkeeping, balancing your IOLTA account, your trust account, all of those skills, when you're trying to learn it while you're trying to get your business launched, it's really overwhelming. So anything that you can kind of learn now, for sure. And there's so many groups for entrepreneurs. And when you have your own solo practice, you're really an entrepreneur, right? You're a small business owner. So not only being a good lawyer, but also being a good business owner, and how to balance those two things. And even if you go and work for a law firm, one day you're going to have to become a rainmaker, right? That's how you make partner. And just a lot of those tools that you're going to learn in those classes will probably be very helpful for you.
And I'll just add that GGU's putting together a all-day Saturday workshop that'll happen at the end of May, sometime after graduation. That's all about solo practice. There will be panels. We're working with the Bar Association to bring in lots of people in lots of different areas of law. And I think it will be free for students and probably recent grads. And so I'll just add to that.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments or feedback?
I just want to thank you for your time to come here and because I know that this is a pretty contentious topic. We're all pretty trying to, or at least for the 1Ls, we're trying to cram in our studies and also know that, eventually there's you have to pass the bar and then become an attorney. So your advice is really helpful for us to kind of at least know that it's okay to not really know what you want to do, but right now is the perfect time to do the research possible and have mentors, so that you're kind of working your way up there. So it's just really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and honestly, your life is just going to unfold in ways that that you really couldn't have imagined. And I mean, I've been out of law school for 11 years, and I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up, right? So kind of, just being like open to different changes and different things that will happen in your life, and not being so stuck on the path that you kind of imagined. Yeah, just being a little bit flexible, and and like life is going to throw you, right, some challenges and some really amazing things, and and like and really kind of thinking about like how do you build that sense of resilience, like how do you practice that muscle within yourself where like things may not go your way, or you're going to make mistakes, or things will happen that was unexpected, and it's like like how do you build that muscle so that you can bounce back and know that you can continue and you can still succeed. Like I wish there was more of that when,
Sorry, did you have any training in bankruptcy law before you started your own practice? Or how did you figure out the whole thing? How were you able to go out and do it on your own?
Yeah, that's a great question. So neither my husband nor myself practiced bankruptcy before we opened our own practice, but we started in 2007. It was just, when the market was crashing, so there were lots of opportunities to practice bankruptcy. So we did the ALRP training. We basically went to every single CLE program that we possibly could. We joined NACBA, which is the National Association of Consumer Bankruptcy Attorney, and they have 2 conferences a year, and they have a great listserv which has about 2,000 attorneys from across the country. And there's actually a listserv for pretty much every practice area that you can ever imagine. And if they allow students to be on those listservs, like they're a wealth of information and a great networking tool. And we just started like making friends with the bankruptcy law community, and it was a very welcoming and it was a great community. And we reached out to the chair of the Northern California section, this woman Kathy Moran, and we said, we're new and we want to learn how to do this. We want to do it right. And so we just kind of adopted her sort of as an informal mentor. I guess she adopted us. And really what we did was, it just kind of came to a point where we didn't feel right about calling her and asking her all these questions without compensating her. So we said, will you just bill us for the time that you spend with us? And that's what she started doing, and that was a great arrangement because, that way we felt like we were compensating her for her time, for training us, because it was like we could only send so many gift baskets, right?
And if you can't compensate someone in money, you could compensate them with services like
Right.
website development, or helping them with their Twitter account, or some other way, skills that you all have that you could contribute that would thank someone for their investment in you as a new attorney.
Yeah, for sure. And now we're at a point where we're mentoring younger attorneys, and I'll just kind of give a couple of tips around that, like how do you ask for help? And I would say, when you have these sort of like big, broad questions, it can be like kind of overwhelming. You're like, how do I even like start to break it down? But definitely do the due diligence that you can on your end, right? Like, look up the code, like go back through, especially if you're on these listservs, like go back through the archives and figure out as much of the question as you possibly can. Because I'm a lot more inclined to help someone that emails me and says, I have this client, I don't know if I can take this deduction on Form B-22. Like this case says I can, this case says I can't. What's your experience with this particular trustee? Can I take this deduction or not? I'm a lot more inclined to help you answer that question than if you email me and say, I have this client, she wants to take this deduction, what do you think? Right, so like how you ask your question I think is really important to show that you've done your due diligence and kind of coming to the practitioner with just the little piece that you really need help with. Yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. Excuse me. Do you have any other questions or?
All right. Well, I'm sure that Jeena can stick around for an extra 5 minutes if anybody wants to ask her something they weren't necessarily interested in asking in front of the group. And Jeena, we're so appreciative of you coming today and sharing your expertise with us. And so thank you very much. And thank all of you for coming and contributing and participating. It was really helpful to make the conversation very robust. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I brought my business cards, and I remember when I was in law school, I was really kind of scared of reaching out to someone because fear of rejection. I don't even never done this before. So even if you just want me to kind of look at your email template, or if you have any other questions, I'm happy to answer it. I'm happy to be your resources.